Hi there and welcome to another PSD Toots spoon-fed Photoshop tutorial. I'm Gavin Steele and I'm going to be taking you through Collis' tutorial on making a print-ready business card using only Photoshop. You can check out all of the steps over at psdtoots.com and you can check out any of the files over the plus section if you just want to download those and play around with them. The only other file you're going to be needing for this particular tutorial is a texture file that you can get for free over at Go Media's Arsenal. If you just scroll down in the freebies section to the texture pack, we're going to be using this concrete one here. Just download it, try it out, and then check out their other resources on the website. You can also check out more of our video tutorials over our Vimeo channel. But let's get started on this print-ready business card. So load up Photoshop, and you can see that I've got that texture file in there, and I've also got the file we're going to be working on in the background. The first thing you need to do is set up a new canvas. It's going to have a width of 61mm, a height of 96. You're going to set it to a color of CMYK. We're not going to start with RGB. We're going to go back to that and play around with that a bit later on. Then you need to head over to Photoshop, Preferences, and your units and rulers. Make sure you've got your rulers on so you can see them up here at the top. And then you're going to add some new guides. You're going to add two horizontals, the first one 3mm, the second one 93mm, and then two vertical guides at 3mm again and 58mm. And then you should get something that looks similar to this. You won't have obviously the texture on there yet. I'm just going to show you what you're going to do with that texture. Right, so on your texture you can just simply click on the move tool and just drag it on to your other document, and then you're going to position it and play around with it. I'm just going to quickly show you how we got rid of these gouges going through the concrete. Now, one method you can use is to use the clone tool, and there's a good little tip on the tutorial that if you set the hardness down to 0, it helps in hiding that you're using any cloning at all. So if you hold down Alt on the area you want to sample, and then you can just drag that along, and you can see you get a really nice effect there. It's actually quite hard to see that you're cloning. Another way of doing it is if you use the heal tool, you could just click above an area and then just heal that in like so, and you get a very similar effect. So just take some time, clone out those gouges until you get something that looks similar to this. And then I just free transformed it by holding down Command T or Control T on a PC, and I just free transformed it until I got it to a nice area that I like. You can see I've got this little patch up here to the top right, these little specks down here. I haven't done a perfect job of the cloning, but that doesn't matter too much. It still looks like a wall of concrete or a slab of concrete, so I'm happy with that. Right, once you get to this point, the next thing you need to do is we're going to make it look a little bit darker. I'm going to add a new layer and we're going to fill it with this dark grey colour I've got down here. Might even want to just lighten that up a bit, something like that, which is 646262 again. Play around with those colours, and I'm just going to fill that in. And I'm going to set that to multiply. Okay, and you can see it kind of looks really dark, and that's because we're in CMYK mode. Now we're going to flick between RGB and CMYK a few times. The reason that is because CMYK is brilliant for print, but it does reduce the amount of things that you can do with your colours. So overlay and multiplies don't work in the same way as RGB. So we're going to go over to RGB mode by going to Image, Mode, RGB. Don't flatten the image. Okay, and you can see it's just changed that effect. You can see the multiplies really taking effect there. Now we're going to go back later on to our CMYK settings just before we print, so make sure you keep that in mind when you're going through the tutorial. So again, to get there I went to Image Mode, RGB, and make sure you do not flatten the image. Okay, so we're now going to create a new layer, and we're going to draw out, using the polygon tool, those little yellow stripes that are going to go along the bottom. I might just come back and just lower the opacity down a bit on that layer. Okay, so using our polygon tool, I'm going to draw out my shape. Now another great tip is if you hold down Shift, it keeps it and restricts it to 45-degree angles or multiples of. So I'm just going to draw my line here. I'm going to come down to about here. Okay, let's get that set about there. Go along. and then straight back up. Now you can see I've actually made a little bit of a mistake there, so we can just start that again nice and easy. Again, click and drag, come down at 45-degree angle. Not gone far enough along. Perfect. Until you get something that looks just like that. And these are going to be our yellow stripes. So once you've created that and you've completed the shape, we're going to fill that with a yellow colour. So we're going to head over here and we're going to enter in C4 B1 0F. And it looks like a horrible yellow. And we're going to select that and we're just going to fill in our shape there like so. Now the key is, once you've filled it, we need to set it to color dodge. Now again, these different blending modes wouldn't have worked as well in CMYK mode, so that's why we came over to RGB. So we're going to set that to color dodge. There we go. Okay, and already we're starting to see that texture coming through. Okay, just deselect that, and now I can move that into position to where I want it on my stage. So we need a few of these to go across the top, so we can just simply duplicate the layer a couple of times like so, and again you can just move each of those along, or you could hold down Alt, click on the layer and just drag a copy of that instance, and again, let's just put that one there until you get about 6 or so different stripes. Brilliant. Don't worry about the positioning just yet, we're going to fix that in a second. We don't want to be using the nudge tools on the keyboard by pressing left or right to get them into shape. We're going to sort that out. So once you've got them in place, we're going to set up our spacing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of those layers, I'm going to pop them into a new group, and I'm going to call that stripes. And then click on your top one, and hold down Shift, click on your bottom one, and we're going to use these tools up at the top. And have a play around with them, you can click on them and you can see how it starts to space out your images and lines them up horizontally and so on. So once you've got them all lined up, we can just move them all into place. Now I actually want to make sure they go all the way across my business card on the back, and then on the front I'm only going to have maybe the first 3 stripes, so it looks like it's folding from the front round to the back. So I'm just going to click on this layer here, again hold down Alt, and I'm just going to drag this layer across till it's about there, and I might add another one over to the left. So I've got one there which I'm not happy with. It's probably that one, is it? No. It's that one. Okay. So I'm just going to delete that layer. And this one over here, just overlapping slightly. And again, we just select the top one, select the bottom one, and we can use these align tools until you get something that you're happy with. So I've aligned them and that looks okay to me. Again, you can play around with the spacing of them, the size of them. You might want them to be huge yellow stripes going across the top, or nice and slim ones like I've got here. But I'm happy with that. Right, so once you've got your spacing all sorted out, we're going to add a new layer above all of these. So let's click and close them and let's add a new layer. And what we're going to do in this new layer is we're just going to darken the edges slightly, okay? Now remember, everything outside of these guides isn't going to print, unless when you go to the printers they don't get their cut quite right, and actually they might just be to the left or to the right of a guide. So that's why we keep some of this information here. You don't just leave it white. So we're going to select black color, we're going to come over to our brush tool, a nice big soft tool, and I'm just going to click at the top and hold down Shift and just draw a line like so. And again, just going to give myself a bit more room on the canvas. Going to click over here just on the edge, and because I've got a soft brush, it's just going to bleed over that line and fade in, which gives it a really nice little touch Again, just reduce my brush down. And I'm just holding down shift as I go across and along. Like so. And you can see inside our guys there's just that little bit of darkening, which is really, really good. Adds a lot more effect to the business card. So once you've done that, I'm going to create what I call, I guess, a bleeding layer at the top. And what we're going to do with our bleeding layer is we're just going to select the areas that we don't want to see. And I'm going to fill it with white. Now the reason I do this is so that I can get a better idea of how it's going to look when it's printed without this black area. You've got to make sure though that before you print you turn off this layer, otherwise it won't print, and if they don't get the cut right then your cards aren't going to look great. Okay, I'm just going to do the last one. Whoop. So that, and again just dragging it to my guide and then just filling with white. Okay, and what that does is it gives me a nice idea of how clean it's going to look and the overall shape. And before I print, just make sure I turn that layer off. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to add some text. So head over to your text tool and click wherever you want your text to be. I'm just going to pop mine somewhere in the middle around here and select the nice clean font. I'm going to keep with this Arial narrow, and I'm going to reduce it down to say size 8. I'm going to set that down to strong, and I'm just going to type in something like designer and blogger, like so, and then just going to move that to the middle there. And again, I'm going to play around with some of these settings. Okay, I'm going to set the font to a linear light, and that's just going to make sure that actually it takes some of the background layer into account on that layer. I'm also going to load up my character toolbar and bring that over so you can see it. And if I highlight my text, I'm just going to increase the space between letters a little bit, like so. Okay, now the cleaner and the smoother the font you use, the better effect you're going to get. So if you're a designer and a blogger, you might want to use a more techie font. You can download hundreds of fonts from online. You might want to go with one. Oh, let's just get rid of that. You might want to go with one that's sans serif, doesn't have any curves, and that'll just look a little bit more professional, maybe a little bit more industrial, which might be the kind of look that we're going for in this particular tutorial. And again, just flick through your different fonts until you get something that you're happy with. Again, that might work. Yeah, that works quite well. And then just to add a little bit of contrast, I'm going to change Blogger. I'm going to change its color to one of the yellows down here. Maybe that one. Let's have a look how that looks. Okay, a little bit orange. So again, just choosing okay, brilliant. And that's going to be the back of the business card. So what you need to do is just for now go up to save, save as, and you might want to call it B card back. I'm just going to click on save there. Click on OK. Right, now I'm going to create the front. So the first thing I want to do is reduce the number of stripes. I can just come back into my stripes layer, okay, and I can just turn off the stripes that I don't want to see. Like so. And now it's going to give the effect that these stripes are going from the front round to the back side. And then I'm going to go up to File, Save As, and we're just going to change it from back to say front. And then click on OK, and then OK. And we're going to make a couple other changes as well. We're going to add a new shape going down here, and to do that, just going to use the polygon tool again. Click up here. Going to come down to about here. Come off the stage, and then back up, and we're going to fill that with a dark grey. So let's create a new layer. We're going to create this new layer just above the previous darken layer that we set, or just above your texture layer. It doesn't really matter as long as it's below your stripes and your text. Click add new layer and then fill it with a dark grey. Okay, and then just pop that straight in there like so. Right, so once you've got that in there, we're going to fix that up so that we can see the yellow shining through it. So you need to make sure, if I just reduce that opacity down, like so. Okay, creates a nice little edge going around our text there, our stripes. And what you can do now is go down to the layers that you've got visible, and if you can command click or control click on a PC on the layer itself to get the outline, and hold shift and select the others in the same way, and you go to layers, select inverse, okay, inverse the selection, then go back down to that layer and just add that as a mask, and you can see that our stripes shine through nice and strong, which is great. So we're just fixing up the yellow stripes there. Right, now before you print, you've got to make sure that you turn off, if you created it, this white layer down the side. Make sure you go back to image, mode, and back to CMYK color. Okay, flatten the image, and then you're going to go to file and print. Now, there's a few things to check out on the print layer. Make sure you've got the show boundary box not checked, and then you're going to have a look at some of the other options. So if we go to color management over here, oh, it's already set on output, sorry. Make sure it's set on output, and then check out bleed and set that to 3mm. Now that's just because of the printer that we're using. You need to check what the bleed's like on the printers that you're going to be using to make sure you get those settings just right. Maybe do a test run and see what you get. Then go to print, and then I'm going to save mine as a PDF. Okay, again, business card front, and just click on save. Use PDF format and click on OK, and then you can see if I double click on that PDF file, it loads it up. And don't forget, because of the way it's going to be cut, we're going to lose a lot of this black on the sides, but actually it looks alright, and that's what you need to take to the printers with you. So thanks very much for that. I'm Gavin Steele, and I'm just taking you through Collis's making a print ready business card using only Photoshop. Don't forget to check out the Plus membership site, our video channel over at Vimeo, and of course Go Media's freebie section, and there are other vector packs that have come in very useful over the tutorials. Thanks very much.